Alright, I got an idea for a new stove. I wanted to talk about it, but before I started that, I want to show you where I came up with my new idea at. So I've got a Bud Light stove here, I've got a magnetic base stove, and I've got a fairly large pop can stove made out of a Arizona tea container. I'm going to light all these real quick. It may take a minute. Let's get them lit. It's pretty cold in my basement tonight. I'm going to lower it down a little bit here so you can see the flame pattern. I think I just ran out of fuel too. I had to delete some stuff off there so you can see from the flame patterns here that these make great stoves for smaller pots for the most part. Now, you can put a bigger pot on them. That one's actually running out of fuel now. But when you do put a bigger pot on a smaller stove like this, what happens is, and we'll switch around so you can see, because this one's actually got the best pattern. We'll put this big pot on this one. It's hard to balance a big pot on that little stove. But even when you do, you can kind of see how the flame just spreads out to the outer side. You're only cooking a portion of your pot. You're not heating the full pot. This one doesn't really work too well for that right now. It needs a pot stand. So, even though you're only heating a portion of the pot with that flame, you're not getting the full effect that you'd like to get. I'm going to bring this down a little further because you can't get underneath here and see. So what I'm saying is, we're only heating the outer edge of the pot. We can't get that inner edge of the pot because there's just no air inside there, and either that or it just spreads out completely. It really doesn't matter how big of a pop can you end up getting. It's still just going to spread out. I could make a pop can out of a Foster's can, and it still wouldn't help any. It just spread the flame out like it did there. So, my new idea is basically to fix one of our biggest problems with stoves, and that's to expand the stove bigger, but not to expand it in all areas. It needs more air, so I'm working on an idea that comes up and leaves more air in the center, but still lets us have flame on the outer edge. So that's what I was working towards here. And this is great. It'll heat a pretty big pot, but it's not a very good balanced area, and it isn't covering the whole thing. If I lift it up, you'll see, even as I lift it up, the flame's still hitting in the center. And as I set it down, it spreads to the outer side, and nothing's heating the center. We're just heating the outside of the pot. This one does a great job of heating the center, but doesn't heat the outside, and that's just a small pot. If we put a big pot on there, we'd never cover the outside. And well, this one without a pot stand just didn't do it. It went out, even though it had a bigger set of jets on it, on a big tea can. And I don't think it would have made a difference if it went with Foster's or not. So this is where my idea came from. This is one of the better ones. It does spread the flame out, but when it spreads that flame out, nothing's heating inside that flame because there's no oxygen in there. It needs the oxygen in order for the flame to work. When we lift it up, we get more of a center burn. And as we come down, you can see that flame shoots to the outside. As soon as you let it down, there's no flame in the center once you let it down, because all the oxygen is blocked from getting used in there. So, I want to invent a stove that lets oxygen into the center and flame in the center, just like this does. Well, that's going out here. But it also has the ability to flame on the outside. So get the best of both worlds here. So that's my idea for a new stove, and I'll show you some pictures of what I think I'm going to come up with here.